pulling from viewership. That's one of the problems that Linus has, because he's tried putting people on camera and they don't get a lot of views that way.
So there's the guy who does. He's a heavier feller that does the Linuxy stuff. I like him. Actually, I probably like him more than Linus.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But he's the only one I
but
like more than Linus, though.
he's kind of like, I don't know. I guess the channel would be more technical if he was like to see like the videos. And Linus is kind of like a heavy medium. He's not too technical, but somewhat technical in something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a much broader viewership that way.
Welcome to the Linux Saloon, a place to discuss tech, open source, and where Linux is always on tap. Each show we'll have a talk about a Linux project. It could be a distribution, a desktop environment application. We also chat about news or any related topics from the community. Anything that's Linux, tech, and open source related is on the table for discussion. I'm Nate, Linux fitness and vintage tech enthusiast with an almost unhealthy obsession with the OpenSUSE project. And with me today, I got a panel. I've got Dr. Love, which used to be Dr. Linux, but apparently he's graduated. I have Chris, a.k.a. Mr. Mate, supposedly. Jinda and Eris. How is everybody?
Excellent.
Doing good.
Good.
Fantastic. So be sure to do the straw poll. Tell us about your experience with OpenMediaVault, if you have not done so yet. It was a busy week. And I don't know if too many people got to it or not, but the conversation won't just be OpenMediaVault. So anyway, on the docket for today, we're going to talk about that straw poll, our experience with OpenMediaVault. But first, what I'm doing in Linux or tech. Chris, you said that you blew up your Mate.
I did.
Yeah, how did that come about?
Okay, so I installed Firefox on Fedora, almost said Fedora, and I ran this command. It was sudo, what is it? I gotta find it real quick. Sudo dnf install lame /star -- or tac exclude equals lame devel. Well, somehow I said, well, I'll just use the snap version. So I did sudo dnf remove lame /star tac exclude, forgetting to remove that exclude lame development. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, I just hit yes, and everything started turning into like square little boxes. And then I rebooted and it said it couldn't start like DM. So I had to go into a terminal and do DNF group install Mate desktop and then group install Mate applications. And I'm back up finally.
Well, fantastic.
How I did that.
So I'm curious about something.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you running? So you said you're running Fedora. You said DNF. So obviously you're running Fedora or a very a super modified SUSE. Why?
Mm-mm.
I'm just saying you might have been.
Yeah.
What? Why did you also said you installed a snap? So you have snaps on Fedora then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all I have. And
no Flatpak.
No. Since it installed all the codecs for the browsers, because like I said in the room the other day, for some reason Opera wouldn't play videos, but as soon as I installed the Snap, it started playing videos. I'm like, okay, maybe Snap comes with everything. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure all this out. But yeah, when I replied to your tweet. Oh, Katie's E6 looks so tempting. Very tempting.
I mean,
yeah.
I like it. So I did.
Yeah.
I did do a little article on it. Nothing too major, and I wrote about it on cubicle8.com.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually, funny enough, it did end up in r/Linux on Reddit as well as r/OpenSUSE. Like it was reposted there.
Ooh.
I don't post my stuff. I don't post my stuff on Reddit. So I use Reddit, but just passively. Anyway.
Wow.
Yes, that was fun. But but it is getting quite a bit of traction. Not a whole lot of feedback on it. So whatever. I mean, people I guess
right.
People are at least clicking on it, whether or not they're reading it. I don't know. But there you go. So Plasma 6 is pretty nice. I'm running it now, not on this machine. It's 5.27 on this one, but on my framework and on a Lenovo that I have. Lenovo ThinkPad, something like that. Is it Lenovo ThinkPad? What are they called now? Just ThinkPad.
Yeah, mine's a Lenovo. Okay. Yeah, ThinkPad. because it's got
Yeah, it says
ThinkPad
yeah,
here.
it does say Lenovo and it does say ThinkPad.
Mhm.
So I'm good.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
piece. This is Ron probably wouldn't like this one. It's he doesn't like ThinkPads. It's a P16S. That's what it is. It's a 12.
Mine is. Let's see. Where is it? I don't even see it on here. Oh, it's in black. It's like real dark. Okay. This is a X1 Carbon.
Oh, that's a fancy one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
X1 Carbon. Yeah.
Yeah. All the kids seem to like the X1 Carbon. So
This is my first time owning an. Wasn't ThinkPad an IBM item?
yep. At one time,
Okay.
they sold it off.
Okay.
So I think they sold off to Lenovo, or they called, or is it they created a Lenovo business unit and they sold Lenovo to somebody, or I don't know how it went, but the company that owns the Lenovo ThinkPad brands, I don't know if that's the company's name. They also bought Motorola, so that's pretty cool. There's a Lenovo. There's actually a Lenovo phone you can buy if you're so inclined.
Oh wow! I didn't know they made phones. That's neat.
But I don't think it has the track point on there, so I don't see any point in buying it.
Yeah.
I think you have to get like an old BlackBerry for that.
I love BlackBerry.
Yeah, it's too bad they're not a thing right now.
I know. I wish they would come back.
So Ron, I guess he's doing some 3D printing, so he's gonna keep his audio off, but whatever, it's fine. I probably can't hear it, honestly. You probably think it's loud.
I don't hear nothing.
I hear him laughing.
Uh-huh.
Do you know how much I wanted to sort of interpose about that ThinkPad bit of news?
Well, you should have. Yeah.
Yeah, I should have, but I was in the middle of
Eating. Okay. Yeah,
chowing down, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's good. You should it's good to do that. Yeah. I guess if you go too long, bad things happen. I don't know. I'm not really sure on that. I've never gone all that long.
Yeah, Lenovo was the last OEM that actually made ThinkPads for IBM, but IBM really never made any money on personal laptops at all. So they just decided to ditch the entire line, including the IP associated with ThinkPads, to Lenovo, who were making these things in the first place. Yeah. And ever since then, it all went downhill.
Well, not completely downhill. I mean, it's okay. So the ThinkPads from way back when, I think, are just fantastic. The keyboards are good. There's a lot of. I got somewhere. I have a P3 ThinkPad. I need to do something with that, just because. I used to play Doom on it too. Anyway, I think there's something about them I think are really nice, really neat. The rubber coating on there, I feel like that's kind of a signature Lenovo thing. But some of them, they kind of get sticky after some time.
Yes.
I'm not sure if there's a fix for that other than turpentine.
That's probably the worst thing about the ThinkPads, that rubber thing, because it gets so dirty. But the way they're so easy to take apart, the keyboards are so much better. It's like a different technology.
So the P3 is newer than my X1 Carbon, right? X1, X2, X3. I don't know.
Well, X1 Carbon, there's like 11 generations of it, so it all depends on which gen you're at. So
mine's an X1 Carbon.
Yeah, I've got a few of those around here, but I stopped at the X1 Carbon Gen 4, which was the 6th gen Intel CPUs. Yeah. They were still using the slim tip AC adapter, and subsequent to that, like 8th gen CPU on, they went with USB-C for charging, and I despise that connector so much for charging.
The only thing I don't like is this thing is stuck at 4 gigs of RAM. You can't put more RAM in it. It's soldered in.
Oh, you have an older one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fixed. Whatever RAM you think you need, you order it in twice as much because the machines are pretty durable. But you really need to get it with a minimum of 8 gigs. 4 gigs is pretty compromising, yeah.
Especially since this thing is running a certain OS.
Mate?
Yeah. The other.
Mac OS?
No.
Oh.
Even worse. Starts with a W.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it runs Windows 10. And I'm surprised it's running on. Yeah. And I'm surprised it's running on 4 gigs of RAM. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this thing came with 8 on it, so.
Oh, it did?
On the bottom, it has a Windows 8 logo. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm trying to find the settings for this thing. System. About this PC. No, there is no about. Oh, here it is. About. It is Intel Core i5 5300U. Oh, it has 8 gigs of RAM. Okay, 7.69 usable. I thought it only had 4. Okay. So it's got 8 gigs in it.
You can use that till you're 80.
I think that
Right?
I think 8 gig is still. I mean, depending on what you're
it's
doing,
plenty fine.
that's plenty fine. Yeah, if you're not doing like.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially,
Oh.
especially if you're running plasma, totally fine. For sure.
Yes, I've heard plasma is a lot lighter now. It's about on par with XFCE.
Yes, sir.
My main machine's got 16 gigs, and it's just a lowly little X220 12-inch screen. Sometimes I have hundreds of tabs open. I've got a sleeping thing, whatever it's called, sleep tab or something like that, going on. So at most, I would have maybe about 5 gigs commit.
Wow.
Yeah, so 8 gigs is totally fine. I did change my swappiness to 1 because I have so many gigs of RAM. So whereas you want 2 and every one of the derivatives, I think they default to 60, which means that you use about 700 megs. It starts swapping for some stupid reason. I don't get it, but there it is.
What do you use, Ron?
Huh? Oh, Mint, Debian, and yeah.
Cinnamon. Okay.
Mostly XFCE, actually. Cinnamon I use with Mint for my media playback. And right now, because I'm a sucker for punishment, I'm using Mate on this machine. Actually, it's fine. Mate's fine.
I mean, Mate. I said mate. I'm bad about saying mate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not twitching about that, so it's okay.
Oh yeah. But hey, another person on the on the Mate team, me and Swift. Yep.
I thought he was more of a budgie guy.
Oh really? Budgie?
I could be wrong. I thought because it was soulless and everything else. So I thought he was.
Soulless.
I thought he was more, But
that is good for when you want to rock some bell-bottom jeans, some 70s rock and roll.
I prefer the 1980s tight rolling. Just saying. Yeah. Yep.
That was after my time.
Kind of like those overalls I sent you on Twitter, the Michigan State overalls.
The University of Michigan, actually, is what it was. And
Yeah.
yes. So if it wasn't just for lulls and I actually wanted it, I would probably get it just because, Michigan.
Right.
And then, but I'd only wear it for Linux Saloon when you're on, just because that's how you do that.
Right. Yeah, University of Michigan. I don't know what did I say?
Michigan State. Now
Michigan State.
I don't personally care one way or the other. I'm actually closer to Michigan State than University of Michigan, but like most of my family went to University of Michigan, and I wasn't smart enough to make it in. So neither university would take me. So, but the Army did. United States Army, they took me because they kind of do this. If you can pass this test, they'll pretty much take you.
Yeah, you're breathing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Go
right.
down the stairs in one piece, you're good to go.
Yeah, if you can put one foot in front of the other, go up and downstairs, yeah, you're pretty much fine.
And I was going to say one last thought. The little computer I have, I said it was one of those little, like they use at hospitals. It's got 16 in it. So, but.
Gotcha. No, I do like the ThinkPads. I think I think my favorite visually ThinkPad out there is always going to be the butterfly keyboard one.
701C.
Yeah, that will forever be my favorite ThinkPad because there's something just almost magical about that laptop. And then
I love the chunk sound it makes.
yeah, and then
Chunk.
It's brilliant.
and then,
That is weird.
and then there's somebody who took the ThinkPad and that ThinkPad and we've talked about this before. I don't want to bring it up again, but put the framework mainboard inside the Framework 13 mainboard, and so they basically turn it to a modern computer, put a new display in there. And every time I'll open up that forum, that thread on the forum, the Framework forum, I'm like, man, it's a one of a kind, and that is just brilliant. You have to take that old chassis and then put modern guts inside of it. Is it still a ThinkPad? I don't know.
Reimagine, like BSG.
Like, how do you carry that thing? I see it's like the keyboard is split right down the middle.
Yeah, so
and half of it.
as you close it, it collapses in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just so super cool.
Oh, wow. So it automatically becomes like a regular keyboard. When you close it, it puts it all together.
Yep.
Oh, that's nice.
Hence the butterfly nomenclature, I guess.
Right. Oh, that is neat.
So I kind of think outside of maybe the framework, but I don't feel like anybody's really doing anything. Well, okay, like as far as like laptops go, like things that are like really exciting and innovative. Like the 2010, I was watching LGR, and Toshiba had the Libretto, yeah, and they had one that was a touch screen, both touch screens instead of a keyboard, and it kind of seemed like generally a fail because it had Windows 7 on there, and it wasn't really tuned quite right, but it was a really neat idea. They took a chance on it. They didn't make very many of those, so that was pretty cool. Of course, in the early 2000s, people are trying crazy things, and in the 90s, people are doing crazy things. I think maybe the coolest or the craziest thing I've seen so far, I think it's an Asus. It's got a screen above and then like a smaller screen right above the keyboard, and a touchpad is off to the side on it. I can't remember what it's called, but so that's one I think it's a little bit different. People taking a chance. But I don't know, I'm not sure if like our computers become too commoditized. Are we not really willing to try?
Oh, wow.
Something?
That libretto, I just pulled it up. Toshiba libretto. Wow, that thing looks like it weighs about 50 pounds.
Well, it's tiny.
Yeah.
It's a real small little thing. It's like a netbook sized. Yeah.
Oh.
The libretto line was a series of really small computers.
They were chunky in the early days.
Yeah, it is small. I see that picture on Google sitting next to a regular laptop. Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like one of those GPD computers. What are they called? The GPD something?
And it ran 98 back then. Wow.
GPD Micro. Yeah.
One laptop, if you want to call it the laptop, would be a ThinkPad from, I think it was 2008 to 2009. It's the W700DS, and DS stands for dual screen.
Dual screen.
So it has the usual 17-inch 1080p screen, plus a little 10-inch thing sort of hanging off the side that folds into the back. Yeah, that was
wow.
unique and not too many takers. Very heavy.
Okay, it's called GPD Pocket. So I put a link in the show, in the Oh, it's an error. Try again. Let me try it again. It's anyway. It's these tiny little computers. They come with Windows or Ubuntu. It's kind of like the modern day libretto.
Hmm.
I just think those are super cool. I don't know that I'd want one or would use one necessarily. I like a full size keyboard, but I think it's neat.
Hmm. I used to have an Asus back in the day. Those were pretty good.
Yeah.
Asus, but I don't know about Acer. Never had one of them. And what was that one that Walmart sold? E-Machine? Oh, Lord. Yeah,
Quality
E-Machines.
product right there.
Mm-mm. I never owned one of them. I remember in 2007 customizing a Dell, going online and telling them what I wanted, how much RAM, what version of Windows, and then paying for it. And then they delivered it. It was so nice. God, I had that thing for years.
Okay. The Asus ZenBook Duo. That's the machine I think that I'm thinking of.
Oh, Retro Tech Chris said Acers were not great. Oh, they were like E-Machines, huh?
Well, the ellipses next to each word really underscores the how wonderful they were. Apparently,
The seriousness of it, yeah.
and no, Sean, I'm sure it's not swell. Wait, I'm not sure if it is swell. Maybe swell.
That's a 50s word.
It's fabulous. Fab. Uber fab.
Uber fab.
Uber. Yeah, I haven't heard the word swell since like 50s TV shows. That's swell. Yeah, I haven't. Like Leave It to Beaver, they would always say swell. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the ZenBook Duo, it has apparently looks like a touch screen or something. You know, I'm gonna put the I'm gonna put the link to the Scamazon on it.
Oh wow, touchscreen.
It's like a $2,600 laptop though. But anyway,
Actually, talking about Scamazon, I noticed something intriguing, and my daughter said she noticed it too. So I'd be looking at a thing. I'm not sure if I want that thing. So I would look at it, come back in a couple of days, look at it again. The price has gone up some. And I go, oh, that's kind of weird. Like it's a very small fractional increase. So my daughter suggested that clear your cookies, look at it again. I reverted back to the original price.
oh man, that's crazy.
What? Yeah.
Wow.
It's something that is done by a lot of online travel agencies when you seem to have an affinity for some listing for some trip somewhere, some flight. And yeah, you keep looking at it, price keeps going up, so you're compelled to pull the trigger. You feel compelled anyhow. But you clear your cookies and you go back to it. Hey, we're back to square one pricing. So,
Or you buy the tickets and then all of a sudden they go down.
So
Yeah,
there's that.
after you pulled the trigger.
when things go up, I lose interest. So maybe they know not to pull that one.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, I guess it wasn't meant to be. So long.
Well, my thing
off
is
to
I would
eBay
put it
go.
into my shopping cart, bring it up to full screen, look at it, walk away, do some dishes, come on back. In a couple of days, take a look at it again. And yeah, and it keeps going up. Go,
Wow.
Scamazon, I like that.
I shouldn't say that because in case now my team would change if they decided to sponsor the show, then I would of course take all that back.
Well, if they hear this episode, oops, that's out the door.
Yeah.
Unless we edit that out somehow.
Nah, let it go.
Right? But you've got better impulse than I do, with the whole, well, it's gone up. Oh, well, bye,
Yeah, I was this close to, totally not related to tech, Linux, or open source here, but I was this close to buying a squat rack for here. So because I have a weight bench, but I don't have a squat rack, and I don't like throwing the weights up over
Oh.
and then doing squats all the time because I have a big nose. I'm afraid I'm gonna clip it with the bar. So it was like I was gonna buy it, and then I said, well, I'm gonna think about it, and I even put a hold on it. And actually, I called Dunham Sports and said I'm not gonna pick it up. I have like some financial goals that I really want to hit, and those are more important than my squat goals. So I guess that's where it goes. Plus, I'm getting old, you know. Knees can only handle so much. But anyway, now that I just killed that conversation.
I've never heard of that Denim Sports. We have
Dunham.
Dick's and we have Academy here.
Haven't heard of Academy.
Yeah. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that bombshell,
Mm-hmm.
Eris, how's that straw poll come along here?
Let me fresh from last time. How was your experience with OpenMediaVault? One answer: didn't have enough time. Busy with work, busy with life. Followed by 22%. It is good. And then 14%. It is amazing. My files at my fingertips. 7% is okay. 7% did not have a good time with it. Not interested in the exploration and not interested in doing the explorations in general. Didn't get any votes. Neither did Tux Penguin or other, and I didn't get any replies.
So I did get a reply on the Twitter sphere. And let me just pull that up real quick here. It's here someplace. I know because I read it. All right, where'd it go? It's actually from Retro Tech Chris. Oh yes. So he says, Retro Tech Chris says, I've used to host files for MS-DOS systems, even made a tutorial for it. And there is a, gotta make sure this thing doesn't play. There is a, I'll have a link to what he did. And I started watching it, but then my internet went out and I had a bit of a nut roll after that. So I didn't get to finish it. So I'll put it here in the who? RetroTech Chris. So anyway, so I started watching it until the internet, and but that was quite interesting. So the fact that he got it set up working on an MS-DOS machine. So if he can do that on an MS-DOS machine, I should probably be okay doing it in Linux, is what I'm thinking. So, anyway.
Wow, DOS.
What can you... That kind of brings up the question, what exciting things can you still do with MS-DOS today?
Play games.
Yes. For sure.
If you know of Steve Gibson from Security Now, his favorite IDE was for MS-DOS. So when he would go work on his SpinRite or other projects, he would go to Starbucks and he would carry a IBM keyboard, the famous keyboard. What is that? Model M, right?
I think it might be, yeah.
And he would take that. He would take like a tablet PC that had DOS on it, so you can have this MS-DOS IDE, and everything was like a converter to another converter to another converter. You know, he had all these cables, and then he's like, people probably thinking, what is this? What am I looking at here?
That's
Plus, no one would be able to hear themselves think because that Model M is so loud.
yeah.
Click, 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 click. Yep.
Uh-huh.
But it sounds
Yeah.
like it's got this like tinging, like metallic tinging to it. Yeah. It's pretty
I
amazing.
Yeah.
once called one of my brothers, and I was beating away on a Model M, for quite a while. It was late in the afternoon or late in the evening at work. This is years back. And he sent me an email that had 45-ish minutes of me typing because I did not hear him pick up when I called him. So I kept typing. I kept doing my work. And yeah, 45 minutes later, I guess he hung up.
Is it this keyboard?
Oh,
Harris?
that's the 84 key. That's the old PC style.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that the F? The Model F?
Model F.
The one I had a spirally cord on it.
That is a holy grail item, by the way.
the
Nate.
last one.
Never lose it.
Yeah, like that. What Jinda has. Yep.
Yeah, this thing weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yes.
Yeah, this
It does.
This
It's
is
an old
heavier.
Dell.
This is heavier than my framework laptop.
Oh, well, Nate has the curly cord too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
a big round DIN connector.
Sure
Uh-huh.
does.
Yeah, mine had a
Don't plug it into your
great
Commodore
cord.
64. Won't work.
No.
That's it right there. Yep, same
You
cord.
fry something.
People say that the Model F is superior to the Model M in feel and
Yes.
sounding.
Absolutely.
It says that the Model M had a better layout with keys.
It feels like it had longer travel with a little bit more resistance. For me, anyhow.
Yes, there's that sound. Yep.
It's pretty
Music.
great. It is.
Mm-hmm. Memories.
I actually can remember the old church computer that had it was an IBM green screen. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. It's probably like a 5150 or something like that. And I would sneak into the office and I'd play Rampage on it. And it was so much fun until I got in trouble. Yeah.
The one we had was, I don't know, it was about that big and it had the two floppy bays and the screen was yellow. The text was yellow on the screen. I
Amber
think it was,
screen.
it was a PC something. We're talking like early 90s, 92 maybe. But it had the two floppy bays on it and it was black in the front, and then the case was that kind of the color of Jinda's keyboard, that tan color. Yeah. But yeah, it had
Beige, you
that
mean.
beige. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and it had that amber text on the screen. Yeah,
I can't say that, but yeah.
beige. Yes, yes, because Canadians spell everything funny. Color. Yeah,
Velour.
color. Yes.
Well, it matches with velour, so, you know, we have a
Mhm.
reason for everything.
Right.
It's a big
Hey.
deal around here, velour,
Yeah.
to this day.
Yep. Yep.
So apparently, oh, okay, hang on. Is that it? Try to get into OpenMediaVault right now. Anyway, so OpenMediaVault. How did anybody here install it successfully and actually got anything to go with it? Do with it? Jinda, it's your show.
Yeah.
Okay, so go
Yeah,
ahead. You're going to run the show now.
Oh, great. Put it all on me. Thanks. No, I actually installed it. It did air out. There was some, I forget what it's called, V6 something error. I don't know. But I did get it to eventually work. And I did eventually get it to be, to access some folder on something, so to speak. But I did it in VirtualBox this time, because last time I did it on my Raspberry Pi, which seemed to work fine. I did do it in VirtualBox. Unfortunately, I thought it was a little clunky. I think it is probably you're probably a very good choice. I think it works great, but it is a little clunky. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, there's a lot to it. It has a lot there. It has a lot of potential, meaning like it's great and stuff, but the user interface to me was a little clunky. I've used some simpler ones in the past. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It'll come to me in a minute. But it does work. It's great. It has a lot of features. There's a lot of things you can do with it. It doesn't, like I said, it runs on a Raspberry Pi, so it doesn't take a lot of power. I mean, that's all I really did with it. I mean, it's a media server. How much can I really do with it anyway, besides be a server? What did you think, Nate?
Well, so I got it going, got it installed and everything else, and I just explored it a little bit. And so it is a NAS solution, network attached storage.
Yep.
And I do like the fact that it has, so my favorite network protocol for transferring files is SSH. It always works. I don't have to dork around with it. SMB is kind of a pain to get going. It can get, although I do have 6 simple steps to, or 6 steps to a simple Samba setup for OpenSUSE. And yes, I like alliterations; they're fun. Anyway, that I did right and does actually work very well. I use it every time for anytime I set up a system that I need to have Samba working on. But it just feels a little bit like a bolt-on solution and nothing like really integrated into the system. Like it'd be really cool if Samba had just used, and maybe I just don't know how to do it properly, but just use the Unix credentials or the Linux credentials as opposed to its own credentials. That would be cool. It used to do that at one time for me. Anyway, so I like that. I do like that it has, it's got everything you need to manage just right there on the side. It doesn't seem to, the menus are very simple to navigate through and so forth. I did not play with any of the scheduled tasks or monitoring because I didn't actually load it up with any files because I just had it running on a VM. But this does appear like a really good, so I have a piece of hardware that I've been meaning to do something with for additional storage. So I'd have like my main server and have like a backup storage. Excuse me. This actually seems like it might be a good solution for that. It'd be simple to set up and I wouldn't have to really think about it very hard, you know? And so I don't know. Do you know if I can have a, I was gonna say NSYNC, but that's not it. That's a band.
That's a band, yeah.
Bye. Yeah.
Sing it, Chris.
So sync thing. Sorry, I had my head kind of took a skip. Sync thing. If I could run sync thing on that, that'd be pretty cool. I probably can. I'm sure there's a way. It's just Debian, so it's not like it would stop me from doing that. It just wouldn't be an integrated solution. I don't know, but something like that would make it super nice because I could have it synchronizing everything like constantly from my main server. So I don't know. It seems like again, I didn't play with the email notifications either, but it seems like a really neat system. And yeah, I don't know. That's kind of.
Oh, I was gonna say to Jendo, would it be the other app you was talking about? Would it be either Kodi or Jellyfin?
No, I use KASOS.
Ah,
Yeah, KASAOS. KASOS. That was the other one I tried like recently, and to me that one was a little simpler and a little like. I think that the OpenMediaVault was a little beyond me. You know what I mean? Because all I'm trying to do is learn how to do something and try to learn how to play with something, and it was a little clunky. You know what I mean? There was things that I think there's a lot of things it does that are very, what is it? A network guy, so to speak, you know, IT network guy, and I'm not that guy.
So the user interface was not terribly intuitive. Is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, it was. It's not that it's unintuitive. It's the fact that there's so much in there. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot in there. It does a lot, but
and you're not sure
stuff,
what all that is. Yeah.
Right. Half of it I didn't know what it was, or I was confused by it, or messed up by it, or didn't understand it as well as I should have. And I was sitting here going, for a newbie to get involved with that, it's not set up for that. It's an amazing system. Like you can do a RAID level on it. You know what I mean? You can do all this stuff. And like the first time I played with it, that was one of the things I could do. I wanted to see, well, can I do a RAID level? Can I do this? Can I do that? And they warned me, if you have like a large RAID level, it'll take you like 30 hours to make it work. Yeah, it's like this thing is made to be for a business. You know what I mean? This is not made for somebody's like me sitting in my house for a server. I think that's what it's for. I don't really know. Maybe someone else knows way more than I do, which I would think.
So you're basically saying pay Google some bucks, get your 2 terabytes.
Oh no,
No,
I just go
I'm
with the
saying that.
Zomba server. I just go with the Zomba server and be done. I mean, that's really easy to do.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't attach any like serious storage to this, but it, and so I'm not really sure like how it manages it necessarily.
Right.
I'm sure there's. Oh well, yeah, you can add stuff, or probably when you add stuff, it would reflect in there. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look like it'd be terrible to do. It'd just be some digging. You look when you get a
Yes.
yeah
Digging.
And I kind of think that this sort of an appliance is not really for the faint of heart anyway. Like if you're going to be setting up a kind, the OpenMediaVault server, you're probably pretty technically inclined if you're setting this sort of thing up. So I mean, you can buy NAS solutions out there, like off-the-shelf NAS solutions. I don't know how good they are, but obviously you're going to pay for that. So anyway, Eris, did you get a chance to play with OpenMediaVault very much?
No, I distro hopped and took a lot of my time trying to set up everything.
Well, let's get to that distro hopping here in a little bit. So I do notice they have a lot of extensive plugins for OpenMediaVault.
Yep.
And I did not see sync thing. Although I did see that Prophetic says, it says, sync thing UX doesn't make sense to me. Just never really got it going. Well, I do have an article on kubelinate.com if you want to check that out. But I've been pretty much using sync thing for everything, because if something goes down, it doesn't, like if a main system were to go down, I wouldn't, it doesn't affect the sync, the backups, essentially, how I back things up. I also like that there's a Microsoft OneDrive plugin for OpenMediaVault. That surprises me. Pretty cool. But yeah. So now, in theory, if you were to set up a NAS, what would you, what kind of things would you put on there? How would you utilize it? Don't be shy. It's just me.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, I usually use SSH or
Do you mean in terms of client apps, like a BitTorrent client or an email server thing?
No, what would you, like in your home lab or what you have set up at home, do you see an opportunity for OpenMediaVault to be inserted somewhere to make maybe some quality of life improvements for your tech that you have going?
Yeah. Movies, music.
yeah.
Back stuff that you store in the cloud, have a backup on-prem type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple iterations of software. For some reason, I feel the need to have Windows all the way to Windows 95. Don't know why, but it's here.
So I'm a little bit ashamed I didn't hear Windows 3.1.1 out of you.
That's because I don't have a copy anymore. I threw it all away.
Oh.
Ouch.
Oh,
Everything. DOS 6.22, everything's gone.
Ooh.
Yeah,
These-
rough.
I
I kept CPM
that's
from
something.
79.
Yeah. But like everything between 79 and
Yeah.
95,
away.
I guess, all went away. That's kind of your,
All went away.
it's kind of like the dark
Stupid.
ages in Ron's life, essentially.
Stupid.
Dark Ages.
I'm pretty sure you can probably get 622. Actually, just probably using FreeDOS might be just as well.
It could be at my office, but I didn't bother looking.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask anybody there to look for it for me, so I'll get some looks.
What if there's? I'm gonna look right now if there's a sync thing plugin. Oh no, there's nothing for sync thing.
They may all say, "What's DOS?" At your work. They may be like, "What's DOS?" No. If they're younger, Yep.
So right now I sync documents to G Drive, and would there be a G Drive add-on so that you can sync your G Drive contents back down to your local OpenMediaVault storage
Thingamabob.
facility?
I don't see. I mean,
I would think so.
No, I wouldn't see why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna see if I'm gonna look for something else here since we're here. So let's it.
Speaking of G Drive,
No Nextcloud.
I've been told about using something like Cryptomator, but I've been scared to do it because of corruption. But to encrypt the files before you upload them or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, it makes a vault on your G Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, and then you just drop files into it. And when you close it, whatever you use will, update the vault or whatever. It's kind of like Veracrypt. If you ever heard of Veracrypt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that does the whole drive, though. Veracrypt does. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is just for, I would say, storing media. This is like a storage system. This doesn't. So I wouldn't use. All right, so looking at this, I would not use this if I want like a media server off of it. But what I probably would do is maybe use this as the storage for like a Jellyfin or MB or something like that, Plex, whatever floats your fancy. That's probably how I would use this. Looking at it, so this is literally this is focused on storage, and I think that's very cool that it is so extremely focused like this. But I would say, yeah, I mean, if I were to use this, I'd probably use it not for a backup solution, but as a just as a kind of like a network attached storage. I think is probably how I'd use it. Oh, it's a NAS. Look at that. That's exactly how I'd use it. So anyway, yeah, very cool. I don't know what else to say about it. It looks like it'd be easy to use. Just looking at like for the things I'd want, and because you can attach network attached storage either using SFTP, SSH, which I guess is sort of the same thing, sort of, but standby, I suppose, if you're nasty. But yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. So does anybody here have a some sort of network storage solution besides me? No.
No.
Yeah.
They're pretty wonderful. So I highly recommend, especially if you have lots of stuff that you like to keep, so you don't lose things like DOS 6.11 and Windows 3.11.
6.22.
What'd I say?
6.11.
6.22. I must have had a stroke. I'm getting old, But yeah.
It's that water. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't live anywhere near Flint.
I know.
So, Eris, do you have some sort of a NAS solution in your home? No. So
I was gonna say a NAS is what Schickel always talked about, connecting a hard drive to a hard drive, daisy chaining them.
Well, that's RAID. That'd be
that's RAID.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can use RAID with a NAS. So Leo says, I used to use OpenMediaVault, but wanted Nextcloud in a Snap version, so I ended up just rolling my own with Ubuntu server. That makes sense. And Sleepy Eye Vint says, as a data hoard, I approve. All my own photos and vids of the family, not stolen media. So define stolen. So Guru the Digital says, I use it for stored, scanned documents and local sharing. I think that makes, yeah, for sure. And also there was some conversation here I want to highlight. So Leo, okay, first off, Prophetic says, for one-off things, local send is dope. I think he means rad or groovy. I'm not really sure.
Swell.
Swell is really swell.
Swell. Yeah.
And then Leo says, +1 for local send. It supports everything in existence and it's easy peasy to move files. So what is this local send? Man, we got to do maybe an application appetizer of that local send. I think that's next. So in 2 weeks, we're doing local send. I've already decided. Anyone have a problem with that? Nope. Okay, great. Yeah, so local send, it seems like, does it support, I haven't even looked yet. Haven't looked. I've only heard about it. Does it support Windows and Mac OS as well? How about FreeBSD? Because if it does, that would be pretty awesome. So, Adam Grubbs, he says to Vince, are things like OpenMediaVault useful for anything other than stolen movies, music, and software? Yes. You got to have a couple of them to make sure that your stolen media is backed up, so you don't lose it to the ether.
That's right.
Yeah. So, anyway, Leo says to me, yes and yes and yes and yes and yes. So everything that I asked. So localsend.org. Thank you, Jinda. I definitely need to check that out now. I'm super curious to see this local send. How does it work? Oh, there's a Flatpak, and it's in the AUR, and there's an app image. But there is not an RPM. So there we go.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness. That's right. There's a Flatpak. I tend to like those
SpaghettiOs.
I tend to kind of go Flatpak now with things anyway, it seems. Often, not all the time, but Flatpak and app image, I'm kind of a fan of those. So I know some people kind of scowl at you when you say app image because it's like there's. Okay, you can scowl at me. It's fine. So I'm gonna do OPI local send and see what I get back. Someone might have built it for OpenSUSE. And that's a Negatron.
Uh-oh.
That's all right. Anyway, well, very cool.
One fear I have about having a private NAS at home, because you'd want to go big, right? Many terabytes.
Or back to work. I don't know.
And back to work, yeah. Putting it up in the clouds, it kind of forces most of the people in my clan to curate before they shove it up there because it costs money.
Right.
Well, a recurring bunch of money. If I did something local, they would just dump it with it willy-nilly, and 20 terabytes would be consumed within a year, and you go, what's on here? Oh, stuff.
Holy cow.
Yeah. There is that, I suppose. So I save a lot of my raw audio and video stuff for when I do production, and then I take lots of pictures, like when I'm working on projects. So I do save those, and then I do. So I'm one of those people that like to go into the bargain bin at the big box store and I pick out movies. I don't have to pirate my movies. In fact, I think I'm gonna go more and more back to that because I think I haven't even watched anything on Netflix in probably a week now. It's like YouTube or nothing at this point. So anyway, what's that?
I was just going to say, you can get DVDs in bins for next to nothing these days. Nobody wants them.
Well, there's always like that same other guy I see there digging through them. So it's like me and one other guy that we buy them. But anyway, I have actually seen some like things online where the Gen Z folks, them young and Gen Zs, are actually about the physical media and actually owning instead of paying, because well, I think that they're not making as much money as, relatively speaking, than when I was, in my young 20s. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here, I guess. Who knows? But I don't know. Crazy times are happening. So I don't know where I was going to go with that. I totally lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It happens. Probably wasn't that good anyway.
You was talking about going back to
The future.
doing,
No.
Oh, going
No.
back to just physical media, right?
yeah, physical media. Yeah.
Yeah. I have like lots and lots of DVDs and such. In fact, I just found another box of DVDs I have not ripped yet. So, but I ran out of storage. I have 5.5 terabytes, and I'm at the point now where it's like I'm like at 96% utilization of that, and a lot of it's movies and then also like raw footage and whatnot. So I'm not sure what to do next. Do I start swapping out drives, or do I replace my 5-year-old server with some new equipment? But I'm so cheap. I don't want to buy anything. Anyway.
Add another drive.
Well, I can't.
Add a 4
No.
terabyte USB drive onto the server, and that'll buy you some time
Yeah.
until you decide.
So I have
True.
this machine already has 7 drives in it. So it's
Okay.
yeah, I have one drive that bootstraps the whole thing. Then I have a RAID 10 array of 6 drives, which they each have 2 terabytes, which is where I get my 5.5 terabytes. So, because they're not quite 2 terabytes each. Apparently, drive manufacturer math is not computer math.
1.83 terabytes
Yeah,
or
something
something like
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So they jip you for sure. Oh, looks like Sean must be done 3D printing. Or maybe it's quieted down. I don't know. Sean, do you have a network attached storage or some sort of central repository that you keep all your data?
No, I don't.
Okay. Is this something you want, or do you don't really care about?
It's something that I don't really have a need for.
Okay, that's fair. Second question. Do you do corned beef and cabbage?
Yum.
Totally
Are
related.
you talking to me or just in general?
Yeah, it was you.
I think to
Sean.
everyone.
Yeah, it's everyone,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay. I'm mostly vegetarian, so I'll do the cabbage, but probably not the corned beef.
Okay, all right. I got you. Just thought I'd ask. I'm making it for tomorrow.
Ooh.
Anyway, so my question would be at what point do you think it's time to retire server hardware that I have? I mean, it's an AM3. It's an older AMD system, so I built it literally 5 years ago, and it's been running ever since. So I think it's I think it's maybe I should just build something new. You think that, or should I start swapping out drives and growing the? I don't know. It just seems like I feel like I'm ready to build something that makes any sense.
Well, I think if the server without the drives consume 50 watts or less, keep it. Because your new replacement would be probably about the same wattage.
Probably.
And your latency is really your Ethernet connections, right? More than anything else.
Well, the AM3 does run a little bit hotter power consumption wise, which is why I'm thinking about replacing that. My UPS gives me an estimate of how much time I have running. If I have that machine running, I have like 20 minutes before the UPS runs out. If I don't have that machine running, it's like a couple hours.
Wow. So how
Not
many
quite.
watts is it using when it's just sitting?
When just sitting,
Yeah.
I'd have to double check on that one. If anything that I say is going to be inaccurate. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, if it's winter, you know, if it's pulling more watts, that's probably a good thing. You know, you're heating your home at the same time.
Absolutely.
That, so my original co-host that I had when I did Linux Out Loud before, that was called DLN Extend. Eric, he would say, hey, Eric Adams, he's here. But when I was building it, talking to him about the process, and he jokingly said that it'll warm up the house in the wintertime, so it'll be great. I think it was Adam Grubbs also said something about that too when I was building it, because it's an AM3 and they're known for being warm. And also, it's not rack mount, and I got it sitting in the rack, and I'm thinking maybe I should get like a rack mount, chassis for it and make it look a little more server-y. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. And I also saw, like, did you ever see Level 1 Tech? If you ever watch Wendell, he's I can't remember his last name, but Wendell from Level 1 Tech. He does. He just shown this something micro. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, he was showing this like pizza box style. It only requires 2 posts server. It was a little guy, and I thought, oh man, that'd be really good for lots of little things too. And I don't know. I think I'd like to build something. I think building is always fun. So.
Honestly, in the retro vein, I've been kind of craving building up or finding an old AMD Phenom system. Do like a triple or 6-core system.
For heating?
For just the hell of it, just kind of kicking back to some of the original PC builds that I did,
So what years did those come out?
Oh, I don't remember the year, but I think it was somewhere around the early 2000s.
Okay. I had my first PC that I bought, like I went from using an Amiga, then I got my first Windows 98 machine. It was an AMD K62, and I'm like, wow, this thing is fast. It's like 300 or some megahertz or something like that. It was amazing how fast that was. It really played the games at the time quite well. But anyway.
Well, when you go back to where I began, it was like in the single digits of megahertz. So, it was nowhere near hundreds of megahertz of speed.
Yeah. Well, the actually, it was amazing what they're able to do with so many fewer of the hertz. But I guess we weren't asking as much from our computers. When you had the resolutions.
Actually, the architecture was a bit different as well.
Okay.
It was a lot different. In that, if you look back at the old, they used to be called microcomputers, but size of a room, and everything was running at what the electricity could provide. So there wasn't any latency. It was like, here it is,
Mm-hmm.
And building emulators for that stuff is really hard because you don't have any timing to like clue into. It was just like what the machine ran at.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. The I know the Nintendo ran at 60 FPS, the Nintendo Entertainment System, and the way the whole light gun thing worked, you can't use a modern TV with that because of the latency. It will not work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the I was gonna say there, the like an old 486. That didn't use those older timings though. That used
No, not at all.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
no.
I mean, if you want to build up an old 486 system, it's basically what the timing clock runs at,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's a multiple of that off of your CPU.
Right. Swift, welcome. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to be here. Glad I could make it.
Do you use a network attached storage appliance of any kind?
What?
A NAS? Do you use a NAS of any kind? Some sort of
No.
a setup? No.
No.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask because we did Open
No
Media Vault.
problem. No problem at all.
Yeah. Well, did we have anything else they want to say about Open Media Vault, or are we good on this and we can sort of move on?
My
Okay.
only comment on OpenMediaVault is I didn't get a chance to use it, so
Okay.
that's
all
it.
right. Well, I think it's pretty great. It's definitely got. I think I want to do something with it. I just don't know what yet. Maybe I might go a cheap adding storage with a separate appliance using OpenMediaVault on a separate system just to play with it for a while. But I think it's gonna. I have to build something or modify something. I'll have to spend a couple of bucks, not too many, but I do need to get some drives to do this. So anyway,
Quick question:
Sure.
Since I didn't have a chance to use OpenMediaVault, what are the hardware requirements of running it?
you can run on MS-DOS if you want. So RetroTech Chris, who was in the chat, he did a video running it on an MS-DOS machine. So you can absolutely put on anything. I think Jinda, he put on a Raspberry Pi previously. But
Yeah,
I think-
we're fine.
Yeah, so I think you could probably take a laptop and slap on a couple of drives and create some sort of a RAID storage out of that,
Oh,
and you'd
Okay.
be just fine doing that. Yeah.
interesting.
Yep. So anyway, yep, I think it's definitely worth a second look, maybe a deeper dive at some point in time. But I have to really carve out the time to make that happen. So, all right. Well, next week is a news flight night. So if you have any news topics you would like to, throw in the chute, there's a thread on Telegram. You can also send me an email. I'm actually all caught up on my emails. As an aside, actually I'll get to that later. But I have caught up, and I have a system now for actually processing my emails in a more timely manner. So that system is held up now for about 5 days. Wait, 6 days? No, it's 5. Never mind. I lied. 5 days I've been able to keep up on my email with how I'm doing it. So if you have send an email, I will respond. I was a little slow responding to you, Chris, but that was for just because I was too busy. But I'm not behind on my emails as far as getting through those. But if you have any suggestions, you can send them to suggestions@linuxsaloon.com, whether they're distribution, discussion, application, or poll ideas. You can send them there, or you can tag it in the Discord or Telegram groups as well. All right. Oh, then I think the following week, what did we talk about that we should do? I was all excited about. Oh, local send. We'll make that the application appetizer in 2 weeks. So I'm gonna write that down here real quick here before I forget. Cool. All right, got it. All right, so actually I'm gonna bring up a little thing here, not a huge thing, but so for I think since September or so, I had been using Thunderbird as my email client, which Thunderbird, by the way, is pretty fantastic. I have very few complaints about it, except that it's a GTK app and doesn't have some of the different little Plasma features that I specifically like to have in my Plasma desktop. So it's sometimes a little annoying to try and move it to different virtual desktops. I had a way of doing it, but I didn't have as many options as I'd like. Anyway, so I was able to this week get back to using the KDE Contact Personal Information Management Suite. So I am now using Kmail and Korganizer and everything else again now that I'm on Plasma 6. And I'm actually very happy with the performance. It looks like there's actually been some love put into that suite of tools. So for what it's worth, the fix for getting Gmail to work with it was a little bit convoluted. I did actually write down my steps on how to do that after going through some forums, and I figured it out through that. It's not too bad, but I am very happy that it does work. So if you do want to try the Kmail with your Googles, you can do that. It does work, and it does seem to work reliably so far. Except sometimes the calendaring does get a little goofy, and I have to like restart it, like it doesn't sync up correctly every time. But that happened with Thunderbird too, so that might be a Google issue. But anyway, just very excited to say that I'm using my favorite. I guess I've been using it since 2003, and it was painful to be like not on the same system. You know, it's like when you get used to something, it's kind of hard to jump off. But so I jumped off for a while and I came back. But I still think Thunderbird is great. It does work very well. Just takes some work to kind of get it to where it needs to be, and then you're good to go. Like the 24-hour clock, starting your weeks on Monday instead of Sunday, stuff like that. Just little things that how I want things. It's just for me. But anyway, so does anybody here use email clients locally, or are we all web?
Web.
Web for you, Swift. What about you, Sean?
Thunderbird
for Jinda. Okay.
I use Thunderbird, but I use Proton Mail as my server.
Okay.
So I can use both the web interface or the local interface.
And what's been the benefit of you using the Proton versus just the traditional, the regular that
Like-
most people?
Like Google.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's privacy.
Uh-huh.
That's a big thing. So if you're using the web interface for the email on Proton, like all of the images go through a filter, so they are anonymized. So anything that's a tracking image
Mm-hmm.
doesn't track you.
Wait, hold on. Can you slow down there? What do you mean? There's something I don't know about.
Okay.
Tracking image?
So in emails, they're for people who are collecting data about you. There's often a thing called a tracking image or a tracking pixel, which is basically a really small, like 1 pixel image that has like no content to it whatsoever. That they can tell you that you tell them that you have read their email because that pixel was loaded off their server.
Yeah, it tells them that you've opened the email. Mm-hmm.
Right. And is Google actually reading your emails and like suggesting ads to you? Probably.
I mean, they claim it's only AI doing it, but we don't know.
Right.
They can claim whatever they want. I've just been on this kick of like trying to de-Google my life as much as possible over the last few years. And Proton Mail was one of those answers. It's not expensive. It's like $5 a month.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
If you want to go paid, if you could do a free version. I chose to do a paid version simply to support them and have a custom domain. So
that's cool. Because one of the emails I like to use is Tutanota.
Mm-hmm.
if that's any good. And I like how they'll encrypt the message. You got to have a password in order to read it. They'll block images from showing up. I'm not sure how effective that is. It sounded pretty good when I did it. So,
They've actually Swift have changed their name. Now it's just Tuda.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got that.
But the only thing about Proton I didn't like was I'm
Mhm.
stuck using Thunderbird. That's the only option that works.
Well, if you want to use the desktop, there are actually two options that work. One is Thunderbird, and with the Proton Mail bridge, and there is an actual Electron app for Proton
Oh,
Mail. I haven't used it, but maybe it's good, maybe it's not. As a desktop email client, I really like Thunderbird. I like the privacy that I get when I need it off of the Proton Mail web app. But, that's me.
Yeah.
And Keyboard Nate is muted.
Dang it. I'm a little fuzzy on how the the image tracking works. Is it when it loads that image? Is that how it tracks
Right.
it? Okay.
Right. So it would be loading that image with a query. So with an HTML query attached to the end.
Okay.
So our parameter. So it would not just be the image, it would be the image !, blah. And the blah is how it tracks you. And it doesn't actually show up in anything that you actually see. It's like a 1 pixel transparent image that does nothing.
Okay.
It just gets loaded. And hey, that's how they get you.
But see, it's amazing how many people have no clue that any of this is going on whatsoever. Like we've been using emails for years and years. Goodness knows how much data they've collected on people in the past 20 years, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Web developer by trade, these things happen.
Yeah.
Anna Rita said it is called Electron Mail, and it is a flat pack for Proton Mail.
Okay.
Flat pack.
Okay. It may be available in many kind of formats. I'm not sure, but
Right.
There's so much stuff to make you paranoid. Because I'm thinking about, my first email that I started when I was 14 years old. Like, this is in the 90s. You wasn't thinking about nothing like this. This is a way to communicate with people. And then all these years later, it's like, oh, well, they're tracking this, they're tracking that. Oh, they want to monetize. Oh, they want to, it's crazy.
Honestly, when I got started on the internet, there was Usenet was a big thing, was a user group or the message groups. And one of the message groups was simply to send out your email and have people reply to you to make sure that your email was working.
Oh.
That doesn't happen today.
And Anna, I just looked it up. They also have Electron Mail as a snap too. Yep.
Does not surprise me.
Right. And if I had known that, see, I just switched back to Fastmail because I didn't want to be locked into Thunderbird. But if I had known about that Electron app,
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
It just makes me, sleep a little bit better at night. That's it. So.
And yes, I know Fastmail is a Five Eyes country, but at least I can use any email client I want,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
use what works for you.
Right. I tried Proton Mail and I liked it, but I just didn't like being locked into the one app.
So I think it's really funny, Don. Lackland says HTML email was a mistake, and I think that is hilarious, and he's probably right.
That's
they
very
look
true.
so, they look so pretty though.
Yeah.
And then Vince says, anywhere you go on the internet knows who you are. It's better to let go and embrace it. It's so freeing.
Crikey. No.
I don't know
I
if he's
mean,
I don't know if he's
well,
being serious or
I
not, but
reject that reality and interject my own.
I think it's interesting because, like I mentioned, you know, and I'm sure many of us had emails depending on how old we are, of course, from the time we're young. You know, there's got to be a time before you're of technical knowledge to understand how the world is really working and people are tracking everywhere you're going and they all in your business and everything. You think you're messaging this person and pretty much, oh, look, oh, you're messaging this person. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. I mean, it starts getting bonkers after a while because then it's like, well, what do? You've been doing this for 25 years. You know, so how do you're gonna reel it back like you're on a fishing pole, pulling
Maybe.
in that big old fish? Like, what are you gonna do?
And then Swift, when Chris Hansen walks in the room and says, sit down, we need to talk. It's like, oh,
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Adam Grubb says Apple Mail blocks all of that tracking, including pixel tracking. So that's good to know. Is that the Apple Mail client, or is there like can you get like
I only started
Adam
using
Grubbs
it.
at apple.com kind of a thing? I don't know. Or some
Apple
sort of-
Mail is an email client.
Oh, client. It's a
for
client. Okay.
Mac.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a Mac client.
Okay.
It's their default is Apple Mail. Yeah.
So I tend to
Yeah,
use
the first problem is you have to use app mail.
right.
Mhm.
I
You have to own an Apple product.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
see, but now I'm not one to defend Apple, but I had been talking to Adam about his experience on this Apple M3, I think he said M3 Mac, something like that. Sounds like he really enjoys it, and I'm gonna guess if he thinks it's great, you know, that's good.
Well,
It's good to like your tech, you know, whatever it may
I'm
be.
glad that he likes that M3, you know, especially with it being it's a newer machine, but it's just like the machine I'm on right now is a 2015 MacBook Pro. And I'd have to honestly say I don't like a lot of the things that Apple as a company does, but I do like this laptop quite a bit.
I kind of
You
understand.
know,
Apple's
gotten-
walled garden.
I've gotten used to certain things they do. I do have Homebrew on here. So I have certain things I can put on here. It makes life a lot easier and more familiar to me, you know, but there are certain conveniences of it that I honestly enjoy, and I use this thing every day, you know. So, you know, after one of my buddies gave me his stuff when he upgraded back in 2012, I pretty much started getting used to this stuff. He let me borrow one of his laptops when he was on Mountain Lion for about a week. He just gave it to me. He's like, just use it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Now, 2015, that means your version of Mac OS is out of date, right?
I have Mavericks on here. Not Mavericks. I have Monterey.
Monterey, okay. Which is how old now?
Which is
3.
next to it's one of the newer ones. It's still
So-
getting updates. It's still getting all the security stuff yet.
Oh, good. I was worried about that.
Yeah. So pretty much I'm going to make decisions as time passes by and as I learn more about this because it's different than dealing with Linux, which is what I'm used to and most familiar with. You know, so this is kind of like a frontier, something I'm learning as I go along.
Yeah, you said Monterey, so you're only 2 versions behind. Sonoma is the latest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so it's no telling what's going to happen once they phase out the Intel Max, what they're going to do, and I'll just figure that out.
They're-
Because-
Holy.
Basically, just install
Uh-huh.
Linux on it. That's what you do.
I mean, I don't really have too much of a qualm. As long as it works and does what I need to do, I really don't
That's true.
have too many qualms with doing that.
Right.
Linux is a more familiar. It's just I plan on having by the time that happens, I have my framework by then, so I don't really.
Could Could you run Linux natively on that MacBook Pro?
Which one?
If I want.
The one that Swift has, the 2015.
Yes, you can.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Because Intel all the way through, pretty much, I guess.
And I
Yeah.
think- yeah.
Now,
There
I've
may
never.
be some issues with like some of the graphic drivers, or maybe I don't know if that one has FireWire ports. That could be an issue.
I don't think
I
by
believe it
2015.
does.
Yeah. But who uses FireWire these days? I have no
I
idea.
still don't know what to use with it, so I just don't.
I was going to say I've never owned an Apple product. How long do they support their OSs for?
For as long as it makes some money.
Oh,
That is a good answer.
true. Well, I mean, like for instance, Swift is 3 versions behind, so I wonder how long they're going to keep Monterey up to date. You know?
From what I've learned, at least another year and a half, maybe.
Oh, that's it. Wow, it's not like an LTS.
No.
No,
Oh,
not at
wow.
all.
Now I might, to my knowledge, I could put Sonoma on here. It's just a matter of a lot of stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still learning, 'cause this is the first time I've had, well, this is the second time I've had a Mac, like a literal MacBook Pro. Like, so I'm still learning, and it's different from an iPad. The way they do theirs is a little different. So it's a new frontier for me,
Right.
and I'm just learning. And I'll make the best of it regardless of what happens.
Right.
Hello, what's going on? My name is Ali Toure.
Yeah, I wanted
White
to.
Chocolate sent me here. He told me to check it out. He told me that it's in the community that explores like Linux
Yep.
builds and different versions, and kind of like, I'm not sure if it's an introductory or like a dev group, but
It's-
I guess I wanted to check it out to see what it's about.
So it's more introductory. We're not. I would say we do have devs on here from time to time, but we're more introductory. So it's more like. Have you ever been a part of like a Linux users group?
Not really.
Okay.
I am good at computers,
Yeah.
naturally, but I've never really explored anything like in Linux. I know a little bit about it. It's less GUI, and
Well, it's as good as you want it to be.
I don't know enough because I've not actually used it myself.
Well, this is a great place for people who are, Linux curious to
Absolutely.
join. So I think everyone here probably uses a different flavor of Linux. So Linux has many different flavors called distributions, and you can kind of tune it to the way you want it to be. So and White Chocolate has joined us, but the way it actually I use the graphic user interface a lot. I do use some terminal just for managing certain things because it's just quicker for me. But largely I use a GUI. This show is being run. I got OBS running, and then Zoom, and it's all running on Linux, OpenSUSE Linux specifically. Probably not the best first Linux to try, honestly. There's, I think probably something like I'd probably push you toward an Ubuntu, or probably just Ubuntu proper is probably fine.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
Or Mate, not Mate, Mint, Linux Mint is probably also a great way to start off too. And yeah, so this community is really pretty good about helping people kind of get through some of their problems. I mean, if you have like a really advanced problem like Chris seems to have from time to time, probably can't work that one out real easily over the forums or whatever. But like for simple things, I'm a big fan of installing Linux on whatever I can install Linux on. So I've put it on many different pieces of hardware quite successfully. And then also, if you're running Windows 11, I think specifically, Adam Grubb says you can play with the Windows subsystem for Linux 2, and that's a good way to try Linux out as well. In fact, there are probably more Linux users on WSL than there are actually just running on hardware.
That's
What's the
freaky.
subsystem thing? Is that you like the System 32 stuff?
No,
is that
it's-
what that refers to?
So
I forget.
if you were to look up WSL, and actually I think you can install it through the Microsoft App Store if you want to play with it that way. That's a real easy way to play with it. So there's Windows Subsystem for Linux is what it is. So it's just
through the App Store.
Yep. I personally don't
Okay, cool.
use it that way, so I can't really help you out too much there. When I
I don't know. I wasn't asking for help. I'm not that
okay.
advanced. I was just wondering.
I'm just saying I wouldn't be able to give you too much advice there. I've tried a Windows subsystem for Linux on Windows 10 before, but it like crashed and locked up the system, locked up Windows, and then I just decided to wipe Windows and put Linux on it anyway. So yeah. But yeah. So
or
what?
Hey, or go with MX Linux like Jinda, Dr. Love. We all use MX.
MX Linux is another great one. I agree.
So I had to plug in MX Linux.
Good point. I would say it's a little more Spartan than probably some of the others, but I think that it's a great way to go if you have an old piece of hardware lying around that you're not doing anything with. It's a great way to just give her the onions and see what it'll do.
I really use this one here. So I mostly use my work computer, but we'll see what happens. I don't really use this for anything.
Okay.
One of the things that I wanted to advise you, especially being new to Linux, is not to get caught up in the analysis paralysis, because you'll have people that'll say, "Hey, try this distribution. Hey, try this distribution." It can be really confusing. Just like, well, which one is going to work for me? I just want to use my computer, but I want to use it with something.
Yeah.
What do you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't want to
So
interrupt.
you're trying to kind of figure that out. And so, like with myself, I took a CD from a magazine, put it in a computer, followed the instructions. It happened to be Ubuntu. That's all I knew.
Swift is kind of old, if you can't tell.
So I just used Ubuntu, whatever. I just used Ubuntu and went for it. Oh, that machine was absolutely old. It had a 10 gigabyte hard drive and an 80 gigabyte hard drive in there. Yeah, I know.
I'm talking about Swift, not the computer.
Oh, you're fine. Anyway, but I put in Ubuntu. I mean, this was in 2010. But I just put it in, followed the Oh God, because I said CD. Yeah, that gave it away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's been a long time since I booted. I've booted once or twice using these discs. Made it like FAT32 for like I don't know. I think FAT32 was the word for making a Windows bootable disk. But I did that so long ago. Nowadays we don't really use booting into Windows because everybody uses just the standard one or has like a pirate one.
Yeah.
So because I didn't know of any other distros, I could just get used to Ubuntu. Like I even had where it's a Linux day, because for crying out loud, I didn't even have sound drivers. So I had no sound. I just had this machine and I could do stuff except for sound. And it took me months to even figure out how to install sound drivers. I didn't have the internet at home. So I'd go to the library, put that on the USB drive, figure out how to then install it onto my home system.
Oh, wow.
I went through it. Now, thankfully, nowadays, we don't necessarily have that process, and it makes life a lot easier. But from starting with that one, because I only knew of one distro, I could focus on getting to know that distro. And then as I got used to that, I want to branch into something else, or I want to do something else, or I want to do something else. And that way you're not overwhelmed. Did that make any, it's easy to get overwhelmed with Linux because there's so many different flavors, like ice cream. There's so many different flavors. You're trying to just pick one.
Yeah.
So it can make it complicated. And that's the only thing, it's a blessing, but then it can be interesting at the same time to have that kind of variety.
So
wow.
The way I approach Linux is, or computers anyway, is if it's not fun, I don't want to use it. And so as soon as something stops becoming fun for me in the tech world, then I'm going to drop it like a hot potato. Although actually hot potatoes are really pretty delicious, so I probably wouldn't drop that. Bad analogy. So honestly, I use what just works well for me. And I think it's really funny because I said Ubuntu and Mint Linux, and so then you have like 100 people just like throw different ideas on top of you. So I apologize for that. But like even the chat itself is throwing its own take on it as well. So a lot of +1 for Linux Mint. But truly, I don't know. So obviously White Chocolate. So he can probably guide you very well with MX Linux. I would say wherever you can get the best.
Yes.
Yep. See, wherever you can get the best support and the most enthusiastic support is probably the best, because that'll kind of get you started in it, and then from there you'd be like, well, maybe I want to try something else. And you try something else, and you got enough of a base from MX Linux or Ubuntu or whatever that you can try something else. And then if you become somebody like Adam is in the chat, but becomes something like Adam, he actually builds his distributions on GitHub and then pulls them down specific. He does like crazy stuff, and I'm not there yet. But he does cool things, and so there's like a whole new it's a whole new world of computing, and it makes me so much happier than using Windows or Mac. But I mean, nothing to take away from them. They just don't make me happy. Apple doesn't make me happy. Mac doesn't make me happy. Windows doesn't make me happy. I could use it. Makes me happy.
So I know I've heard. Well, I haven't really used it at all, but I've heard like the value as that like there's less compatibility issues. But in terms of since it's GUI, not GUI based, I guess for scripting or creating new programs, I don't. Is that an advantage for Linux? What do you guys feel like the advantages of Linux are?
Well, I mean, I think it's gonna be a little bit different for everybody, but the advantage for Linux for me is I know what my computer's doing. I only allow it to do what I am permitting it to do, and everything else is pretty much either locked down or shut off. And so you don't quite get that with Windows because it's phoning home. You have to have a Microsoft account unless you do some trickery. So I don't have to have an account with anybody anywhere. That's huge for me. I can't speak to Windows. I can't speak to Apple. And if it requires an Apple account to start it, I don't know. That to me, if it requires some sort of a cloud-based account to be able to turn it on, then that's a non-starter for me. Like for me personally, it's a non-starter. So if I can't get past that first toll gate of can I keep it completely in-house, then it's then it's good. If I can control everything and pick and choose the pieces that I want to operate, then it's good for me. So like if you're into programming, I mean, you can use VS Code or VS Codium, which is like an open source version which doesn't have all the whistles and bells of VS Code, but you can use a lot of the same developer tools on Windows on Linux. Sometimes I think they're a little bit better, my opinion, but I think a lot of them are a little bit better. When Linux tends to use less resources than Windows or Mac historically anyway, and so it also I can run a Linux system for more years than I can a Windows system because Windows will fall out of support or it requires the overhead in the Windows system is much higher. Like actually, for instance, like I have this work provided this machine here. And it was so dog slow. It's a 12th generation i7. Windows 11, fresh from the manufacturer, was so slow on this ThinkPad that it was just unusable. And it was a 12th generation i7. So
that's terrible.
I put OpenSUSE Linux on there. And it runs great. It's a screaming machine. It runs just absolutely great. It's not perfect, but nothing is perfect. So if you can find a perfect distribution, what?
They allowed you to wipe Windows off of it and put Linux on it? I'm
the IT manager. Who's going to tell me no?
Okay. Well, yeah, true. Well, when somebody sees that green wallpaper, they're going to go, that's not Windows.
What are they going to do?
Nate. True.
In fact, yeah. So, anyway, yes. Steve, the Linux one, brainwashing begins. It's not brainwashing. It's giving options. Jeez, Steve. Come on.
I was going to say, with Swift talking about the Ubuntu CD, I don't know if y'all will be able to hear this, but this takes me back.
You're gonna play that. Yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what just happened, but he's excited.
Is that the boot up sound?
You didn't hear it? The
Yeah, I heard
Ubuntu, yeah, the Ubuntu startup sound from like it says 6.0 to 1804. Yeah. Oh yeah, that takes me back to 804, 904. Yeah.
Wow.
They need to bring that back.
I started on 9.10. 9.10.
Yeah, 910.
Koala.
I tried, I want to say 904, 910, and then in Kubuntu, I think I only did 804. And then I finally went to 1010, 10.4. By that time, I was so far behind, I didn't know that they were putting out new versions back then, you know, so quickly each year or whatever, because I had just started dabbling in it. And that's how I wound up on Mate, because I liked GNOME too.
Yeah. Same here. That's how I migrated from Ubuntu. Actually, goodness, I wrote a blog post on this, and it was just talking about, you know, I didn't like the direction that Ubuntu was going into, and so I became a refugee to the Linux Mint camp.
Oh, okay.
You know, they took me in, they fed me, they clothed me, and to this day I'll have a machine running Linux Mint because it goes back to what was said earlier about finding the right community. Because with Linux Mint, I found a very encouraging community that were there to kind of help me when I was starting this journey on Linux, because this is before Discord, before Telegram, before I even knew of IRC, for crying out loud. I knew.
Right.
So I'm just Googling stuff, but then Google floods you with information. And you're like, okay, well, this is outdated and this has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do. But if you don't question it right, you get all this gobbledygook that you don't want. And so it was easier, you know, once I actually got on IRC and could ask questions, then I could get pointed the right way. But then other communities might not have been, you know, weren't as helpful to me as a new person. They'd say, well, go to this channel, go to that channel, and they ping pong you back and forth, and your head gets rattled.
And then you got the RTFM folks back then.
That's who I was referring to.
Yeah.
That whole Antergos. Oh, you know where they sent me for that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go back there. Oh, no, go back here. It's like, dude, somebody, if you don't, or somebody will make a smart comment, it's like, well, dude, if you don't know the answer or you're not willing to help me, then just be quiet. And then we don't have a problem. Because it's almost like you have the gatekeepers that, okay, I guess you don't want people to use Linux because you're like, shoot. You're not as smart as I am. You're not good as I am. Go away. Bye. We don't want you here.
Yep.
You know, and that got ridiculous. And so, I'm glad that things kind of played out the way they did.
I never experienced that in my early years. The Mandrake community was really nice too.
When did you start with Mandrake?
2003.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm an old fart.
I was nowhere. Yeah.
No, Mandrake was a good forum.
High school.
Yeah, very nice people. So Anna Rita, to give some other reasons why Linux is good, is there's no activation or product code keys you have to worry about. It's it's free as in beer and as in speech. And then Steve's very own with a very positive and helpful, the Linux brainwashing begins. He did say that. So,
so we talked about it being lighter on a machine. This gateway is a Walmart special that I picked up from a thrift store for like $70 a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love those things.
It's got Windows 11 on it. It's a touchscreen, nice device, but you can tell that Windows is like heavy on this thing. It's got 4 gigs.
Oh.
So first to even start doing anything with it, because it had like the Home S edition. I call stupid edition. So I got rid of that whole part. But it boggles my mind how heavy, Windows is with everything that's attached to it and stuff that you're not even really using. At least it appears that way. Whereas with Linux, if I was to put Linux on here, it would fly. It'd be like, it's not an old machine. It's just not high spec. And I've experienced that with just about with other stuff I've had. So that's one of the things about Linux. You have more headroom to use whatever even if you had an X60 ThinkPad from 2006 for crying out loud, I can put Linux on it and use it to a certain degree, obviously 3 gigs of RAM, but I can still use it. If I had Windows on it,
different versions are there?
I'd have no hate.
Linux
versions.
Oh.
Like 200. I think there's like 270 some odd actively different versions of Linux you can install. A lot of them are derivatives of others. So I think it boils down to so there are basically 5 different branches, maybe 6.
Yeah. It's like families.
Yeah. Families. The Deb family, the RPM family, the Slackware family. Yeah.
And they got cousins, nieces, nephews, grandparents, great grands.
Drunken
grannies.
Yeah. The NixOS family. So you forgot the NixOS family. We're part of that community. I'm sorry.
Let's add that cousin Nix.
Yeah.
Yeah, cousin Nix, right? Well, I wasn't sure what Nix ran, so.
Well, the Nix family, the cousin Nix, he's pretty cool. He's always got a pack of smokes rolled up in his sleeve, so he's pretty cool. Maybe you can't talk about that anymore.
Ali, where you are now is where I was back in December of 2016. I wanted us to move from Windows 7 to something else because I didn't care for Windows 10. It did me some great harm in a trade I was doing at the time. So I decided to listen for a change to people around me at work as to what I should run for a replacement for Windows 10, or Windows 7 too, for that matter. And I had 5 or 6 different responses, so I decided to just use a spare laptop, grabbed a whole bunch of ISOs from various websites. At the time, it was just websites for me, Ubuntu, Mint, and so on. And I tried 42 different versions of Linux in the space of 6
that's a lot.
weeks. Yeah, it was a stupid amount. It was a really stupid amount, but I was quite motivated because I didn't want to go to Windows 10.
Wow.
And yeah, it took me a while, but the fun was just trying things, finding out what really turns your crank. Sometimes you don't even know the look and feel that you prefer until you get there, right? Because I'm all for the Spartan look, but not that Spartan. I don't care for bling. I don't care for arrow and all that type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, from what I've seen, a lot of it looks like the stuff on Divine Art, that website. It looked like kind of like skins on that website.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
That's
One of the cuts. I don't know if it's still current, but it was something. Oh, the Everything OS. It was so blingy and so heavy on a laptop that battery was dying in less than an hour because every special effect was turned on. It was lovely to look at, but it killed the battery, and the fan was just singing like no other,
kind of
like a banshee.
What did it sing?
I don't know, some Irish thing.
Bagpipes.
Kind of like KDE and the what is it? The square and the fire. The window turns to fire and
yeah,
that's good.
Stuff like that, and a constantly rotating mouse pointer, and that had arrow in it. UE Ultimate Edition. That's it. Ultimate Edition Linux OS.
Right.
Oh,
I think
wow.
it's a single dev. Yeah, that was one of the ones I tried. I even went as far down the rabbit hole to try Crux OS, which was strictly like a server-based, minimal terminal only. There's no GUI, there's no X, nothing.
Oh wow!
Because I thought I could be cool and be one of the hip guys, living in the terminal, and nope, didn't work for me.
I want to explore some terminal-based distributions again. There's some just because I think they're fun. But it is that time. We have to do last call. So I don't know if anybody. I just want to really quickly. Number one, Ali, thanks for joining. White Chocolate.
It's the Q&A section, right? Okay.
Thank you very much for joining. Yeah, you can join. We do every Saturday night, same time. You're always welcome. You don't have to use Linux. You can use anything you want. There's no. We just talk about Linux and tech and
we may
source.
Frown though.
Well, Ron may frown, but he frowns at everybody. So, White Chocolate, thank you for bringing Ali here or introducing him anyway. So, do you have anything you want to say before we kind of close this thing out? Like any other comments before Ron gets too drunk?
Hey, just my second sip
of this bottle.
Wait, only the second? Man, you're slipping.
It's a Linux Saloon, you know. Well, I want to kind of go ahead and start wrapping this thing up here. But Steve's very own, he was trolling in the chat as he normally does. Sometimes he trolls here, but he has a show that he does every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Central or 9:30 Eastern. So you can check that out. He does it on YouTube. Kind of talks about whatever Steve talks about. He's one of the nicest, least punchable men on all the internet. So you can check that out. Linux User Space. They had lots of feedback and made a show around that. So I think it drops on Monday, I think, if the notes are correct. I am part of a podcast called Linux Out Loud. We just recorded another episode, and we did actually have all three of our people there, Wendy and Matt. It was a good time. Can we just talk about the different things we just talk about the different things that we were been doing over the time. So nothing too crazy. Actually, there was something. Anyway, check that out. Linux Out Loud. I have a website called cubiclenate.com. I write about things. Most recently, I did a kind of not really a review, but how the experience of using Plasma 6 on OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, which is Ali. It's just a desktop interface. It's been worked on. It's a new version coming out. It's basically the best desktop you can use in all of computer land, in my opinion. So, cubiclenate.com if you want to check out any of that stuff that I do there. So Linux Saloon is part of the Tux Digital Network, so check out more great shows at tuxdigital.com. I want to thank you all for your support, however you do it, being a part of the conversation, both the Zoom meeting, the YouTube stream, as well as everyone for watching the show after the fact. I want to thank you, everyone involved in making the Linux and open source tools possible for us to not only have this conversation, but also to have fun and enjoy our technology. Linux truly puts personal back into personal computer. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to tip your developers, and please remember to Linux responsibly. Until next time. See yas.